Damn.
I know. We are recording.
Cheryl, as we're recording, I can hear any of the scratching noises you make.
Okay, I'm not. I was doing my nails. Sorry.
I wasn't going to say that. I was just going to say I can hear scratching noises.
Damn it. I promise this is the part that nobody wants to know about. Let me look and see.
So they are going to come in. I'm letting them in now. I'm letting them
well.
in the house.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm welcoming everyone. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Is everybody here?
There we go.
Everybody's coming in. Excellent. Welcome.
All right.
Yay. We're just setting up. We had you all in a waiting room while we were just kind of running through this to make sure it was going to work.
Okay. All right.
And happy to have everybody here tonight. Now, everybody can see Susan in the top right corner. No, let's just see.
Nope, not yet.
So I'm going to ask people as you come in to mute your sound so that Susan can be in the corner for the most of the time. And then at the end, we're going to do questions. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're just in the starting position here. People are coming in. Whoever doesn't have their microphone on mute, if you can mute it, and then we're going to open it up for questions and you can unmute at that point. And Susan's going to answer your questions directly, but I'm welcoming everybody to our Zoom cocktail hour. In lieu of an opening, we are doing a lovely Zoom cocktail hour. So Wanda, I think you're the only one without a mute on. If you can mute your sound.
Am I muted now?
Nope, you're still in.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a wander through to see if you can find the mute button.
So Wanda is muted, and as soon as Susan starts to talk, she will appear on the screen.
Lovely. Okay, so Susan has to start to speak.
Hi.
There you go. You're
coming.
You only show up when you start to talk. Hi. We're just waiting. A couple more people are coming in. We're starting to see, we're starting to say hello to a lot of folks. I'm going to give them a couple more seconds just to get into the room and everybody to settle in. Looks like we've probably got, we've got quite a few folks here tonight. So that's great. All right. Going on to 7 p.m. Alberta time. I know a lot of you folks are in Ontario, so it's a late night cocktail for you. And I appreciate you being here. The cocktail party, it's a nice format. We desperately all miss getting together and being part of art openings and talks about creativity and process and all the things that used to happen that just aren't happening anymore. And so in light of that, we've just decided to try and use all the tools that we can possibly use to engage people in the artist process, because artists right now are working so tirelessly in their own tiny little private worlds of their studios. And it is lonely and it is without input. And it's so nice to gather in whatever way we can to just talk about that, to talk about why and how art is produced in this crazy world that we're living in right now. So I want to say welcome. I just want to welcome you all. And I want to talk a little bit about the show first and a little bit about the artist. And then I'm going to open it up to Susan to talk. So it's a format that's going to be very casual. And we are going to open it up for everybody to ask some questions of Susan later and have some conversation. The beginning, it's just going to be a little bit formatted. So if you can turn off your mic, so if you can mute, that would be helpful. And then Susan, when she's talking, will be heard. And then when we do open up the question portion, please turn on your mics and everybody, it's a free for all. I welcome it. So first of all, I want to toast to Susan Wallis, the artist, who has created another amazing show for us, another year, another show. And this is a year beyond all years. This is more than I could ask of anyone, to be in isolation, creating for an audience they don't even know is going to exist. So honestly, it has been one of the most challenging years ever for artists. And I'm feeling more proud than I ever have to be, supporting artists and creating opportunities to be seen. So this show is called Looking Back, Moving Forward. It's called that for clear reasons. Susan and I started a discussion last year. So this time last year, I'll give you some context. Susan and I had a horrific conversation. She was scheduled to have her opening on this very day last year, actually tomorrow, 26th of March. She had sent off her show in the early March to travel across the country to come to me before there was any indication of what was about to happen to all of us. And at some point on around March 15th, I was told that the gallery would have to shut down. And the same day, her show arrived in my hands. So you can imagine the challenge. It was 6 months worth of work for this artist, with the expectation that a crowd of people would bear witness to it. So we sometimes see 200 people at an opening, and artists have seen that ongoing as part of their process. So it became untenable, unimaginable that no one would see this show and that no one would participate and there would be no feedback. We did what we could. We knew nothing at that time. So we kind of forged forward, and over the year, everyone enjoyed and embraced. As we were able to reopen 3 months later, everyone embraced the work. And, as things have, everything works out. This year is a real retrospect. So looking back, moving forward was part of that discussion. Let's look back at the last 20 years. Susan Wallis and I have worked together since 2005 was her first large show with us. And we have had a major solo exhibition for Susan every year since. Susan Wallis has been a professional artist for more than 25 years. She's known across Canada and beyond for work in a medium called encaustic. Encaustic is the process of painting with wax and oils, and it's an alchemist's work. It's an entirely different process than any other form in the art world, because it's sculpture, it's painting, and it's all the sensory input as well. It's smell and it's feel. So I encourage you to explore what encaustic art is, but the basics are it's painting with wax, and Susan's going to get into why and how that happens a little later. She started out as a painter in acrylic, as many do, and just wasn't thrilled with the flatness and wanted to find that dimension, that sculpture. And in a little film at the end of this Zoom, you'll see the sculpting, you'll see the pulling up of lines and the creation of dimension, and her ability to imagine so far in advance layers of color on layers of color and the transparency of the wax. It is truly amazing to watch. So I want to welcome Susan here. She's here to talk, not me, but I really I want you to start to understand who the artist is. So I'm going to play a little quick game. We call it, there's a lovely format called 73 questions. It's about asking spontaneous, very fast moving questions and seeing what comes out. So really getting an opportunity for you to understand the artist, to understand who she is through just really random questions. So Susan and I are going to play this game. She is, I don't know how prepared.
I really feel like I'm on the hot seat.
It's the hot seat, and you're going to get an opportunity to witness a little bit of who she is. It's quick and it's going to be fun. And after that's done, we're going to walk through some of the work, and then we're going to open it up to further discussion. So I'm going to start. We didn't make it 73. That's way too many questions. So we're going half, and it's going to take about 10 minutes. And I ask you to just listen through, and hopefully it gives you a better sense of who this artist is. Okay, Susan, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, all right. What's your favorite time of day?
Late afternoon, just before sunset.
What's the first thing that you look closely at when you walk into somebody else's home?
Their artwork collection.
Of course. What's the first thing that you thought of when you woke up this morning?
That today was going to be a better day, in particular for someone in my mind. Yeah.
Beautiful. Who's the artist currently inspiring you the most in the world?
You know, I don't really, I love the masters, and I always go back to them. So I'm a big Caspar David Friedrich romantic artist, and
Brilliant.
although I watch other artists, I try really to, find my own way.
Okay. What's your biggest weakness?
I worry.
Oh, yeah. Introvert or extrovert?
An extroverted introvert.
Oh, okay. That bears a tiny bit more explanation.
Yeah.
No.
You want more explanation?
Yes, a little.
I think grew up shy. One day became more extroverted, but truly I love my time alone in my studio. So that's an introvert.
Do you not do improv as well?
I know, which seems contrary to being an introvert, but I think, and there's a lot of introverts who are improv artists. So I think, you're playing against two things, and you're trying to find your way. And so I think there's a bit of both in everybody, to be honest.
Beautiful. I don't know that everybody knows that, but Susan and her husband Glenn are part of an improv troupe, and they actually do perform improv on an ongoing basis. What's the one vice you wish you could give up?
We're going to hit worrying again. I'd just like to get rid of that.
Tell me how your dog would describe you.
Oh, silly and stop talking to me so much.
What's a cause that's really important to you?
The basics, food, shelter for all,
That's something that's pretty dear to both you and Glenn. I know you started a charity that actually does feed people based on the farming community that you live in.
Yeah. Food to share.
Food to share. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
This is a tough one. I'm going to say that my art has, made their life a little bit better, even maybe for a short period of time. And that's, to me, is like major.
There is nothing better. And we hear that about your work all the time. What's the one object in your life that you covet more than anything?
Oh, okay. I covet a lot of objects, but I'm just that kind of person. I'm very sentimental, but I would say a beautiful vase my mom made for me. She was
Oh, wow.
dabbled in ceramics, and a James Bond toy car my dad gave me, where the man ejects out of the car.
Indeed.
There you
And
go.
you have that. That's brilliant.
I still have it. Yeah.
Whose creative advice do you value the most in the world?
Oh, absolutely. My daughter.
Oh,
She
yes.
is also an artist, and I can struggle with a painting for hours, and she can walk in and in 2 seconds say, Mom, bam, bam, that's what you got to change.
Brilliant.
That's what you got to, and she's always right on. So I really value her input.
I hope she's here tonight. She is, I think.
I don't know, maybe. I hope so. I invited her.
So I hope so. What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done in your life?
Against my better judgment, I scuba dived.
Oh, did you enjoy it? That's not part of the questions.
No, kinda.
Okay, kinda.
Yeah.
How would you define yourself in 3 words?
Serious, silly,
Okay,
and creative.
indeed. What's your current favorite piece of clothing?
Oh, a scarf. We just got out of winter.
Oh,
Scarf,
yeah.
shawl. Yeah.
How do you beat a creative production block?
Take the dog for a walk. Here's all.
That puppy has the best life.
Yeah.
What is, apart from your art, inspiring in your life right now?
I'm always inspired by the changing seasons, and that's one of the reasons why I love living in Canada, because we have those changes. So yeah, nature.
Yeah. Well, and you live in the heart of Ontario with all the seasons. You see
Yes.
every nuance of every season. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That rejection is a part of like growing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We all know
Yeah.
about that.
I didn't like it, but it
Nope.
was true.
It is true. We all grow. What's something that you notice about someone else when you first meet them?
Oh, I'm an eye person. It's all about the eyes.
Indeed. And the COVID world allows us so little of that, seeing people's eyes close up.
Yeah.
Guilty's pleasure. I'm interested in this one.
Wow. Guilty pleasure. Just doing nothing. Like nothing.
And so few of us can
And it's hard to do.
I know, we can't admit to that one, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
How do you start every day?
With a good coffee, usually made by my husband. I'm lucky. Yeah.
Who's also a bit of a chef, hey?
Yes. Yes.
Do you have one favorite painting of your own?
I'd say it was my first one. It was
you
a
have
Birch
it?
painting. Yeah. And I know someone who's on this Zoom call who basically said, when I die, she gets it. So
That's
you know who you are.
You know who you are. If
go.
you were not an artist, what would you be doing right now?
Oh man. Wow. I would I think I'd hope I'd be helping other people with their artistic projects, like to
Do
be
you
a
think you would be doing something artistic regardless?
yeah, regardless, but maybe not producing myself, but supporting those who do produce.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah, I think. So.
What's something that you absolutely can't do?
I can't skate very well, and it's embarrassing when you're a Canadian. And my husband was born in Montreal, and he's like a figure skater. Like, it's
Well, and you also live on a lake, don't you?
I know. I fall down a lot.
What's the last thing that you purchased? That's an interesting question. I'm always interested in knowing this about people.
It's pretty exciting. Staples.
Oh, well, good for you. I wish I could come up with something quite practical.
Not interesting.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, anyone who knows me, it's Wizard of Oz, man. It's got everything.
And here's a question in the COVID year. What's the best thing that happened this year to you?
Oh, well, I would say that I was able to be close to all my family members, my kids, my husband.
They all
you know,
gathered together.
we were all together, so
Beautiful.
I don't think you could beat that during this year.
I agree. And I
Yeah.
skip to what's your favorite cocktail? That's a COVID question too.
You know what? I'm going to say this one. I really like Campari, and I'm really enjoying this. So this is my new one. Yeah,
I hope
thank you.
everyone's enjoying it. What
Mhm.
time of day do you feel the most creative and productive? When do you work the best?
Mid-morning.
Okay, what's that?
Mid-morning, not early morning, not lunchtime. There's a small window of time, and that's the most productive. After coffee, before lunch.
Perfect. That's actually the perfect time. What's your
Yeah.
favorite color? It's a crazy question
Yellow.
to ask an artist. What's
Yellow.
your favorite? Oh,
Yellow.
Yellow.
It's happy. It's happy.
I rarely see yellow in your paintings. That's wild.
I know I don't wear yellow, but okay, my thing is every kitchen should be yellow. It's a happy place. That's my thing.
The
Grew up with a
world
yellow
according-
kitchen everywhere I went, so.
Beautiful. The world according to you. At this point,
Yeah.
every kitchen must be yellow. Do you like surprises?
If they're good. Sorry,
Okay.
condition. But yes, yeah.
Do you remember the first painting you ever made?
It was a paint by numbers, and I was scolded for going outside the lines.
Oh no.
I think it's great, and I still have it.
Do you really?
Yep, I have it framed in my bedroom. Yep.
It's
Yeah.
the lesson to learn, right? About going outside the line.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the tools you use most in your work?
Oh, scrapers.
Oh, yes.
Scraped wax. Yeah.
Wait till people see that film at the end. There's a lot of scraping. What's a normal Saturday night in the Wallis household?
Well, I think it depends on the season.
Mhm.
Winter would be dinner and Netflix, good movies. And then summer would be let's stay outside as long as we can till the sun goes down. Pretty much.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Where in the world do you feel the most yourself?
By any body of water, a lake,
Oh,
ocean,
beautiful.
could be a puddle. Just I
A
love
body of
water.
water.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I understand fully.
Yeah.
That to me, this little exercise of 35 questions is more telling than most kind of talks. I think you give more in a spontaneous format than you could possibly by planning. So good. I was really impressed with how quickly and how easily you were able to give us all that info. So I'm gonna start talking about the work a little bit, because I want to leave a lot of space for people to ask some questions and to participate a little bit more. So we can, people can get a chance to turn their mics back on and talk to you. But I'm going to flash some imagery up on the screen. I want you to just talk about, since we're looking back at all of the series you've worked on over the last 30 years, I want to start to bring up some of those series in groupings, just for you to tell us a little bit about where it started, why, and what it's meant to you to kind of revisit those things for this show. So I'm going to flash up the lakes.
Okay. Okay. Well, my Mystical Lake series was very early on. Obviously, I love lakes. Growing up in Ontario, as a kid, a picnic didn't happen if it wasn't beside a lake. And I'm fortunate now to live on a beautiful lake in Prince Edward County called East Lake. And a majority of these paintings are always inspired by the different emotions that this lake have. Because I do feel that the lake emotes emotion, and I try to capture those in my paintings.
Absolutely. I remember a photo series you did around two of your series, the nest and the lake, and that floating out. And I can remember kind of the emotion that went with that, immersing yourself in in the water. I'm going to go to the birch forests.
So my first painting ever was a birch tree. The actual process of layering the wax and carving into it lended perfectly to the bark of a birch tree. So it's been an ongoing image in my work, and it'll appear in other series.
Okay.
I'll just, insert a birch tree because it means something to me. And I love the tree. It's a tree I drew as a child, and I've always thought it stood out in a forest. And it means a lot.
I've watched.
And the actual process of doing it after painting many, many birch trees over the years is a zone I can go to.
I can see there's a physicality to them.
Yeah.
And you see it. You see in the gouging, it's the thickness, it's the sculpture that matters, and the gouging in to create the dimension that the birch actually gives us. When you peel the layers of the birch away, it really shows in these pieces. Little Red has been one of the most fascinating ones for everyone. Where did Little Red come from?
Well, it started with, I did a show called Seeing Red, and it was all things red. So it was like a red tent, Little Red Riding Hood, red flowers, the red apple. But the Red Riding Hood image really stuck with me, and I just continued with that series. And I just love, I think for me, the story is familiar to many. It dates back to as far back as the 10th century. I mean, I think we all know the Grimm's brothers version the most. And I think it evoked a lot of symbolism in my own life. We all, in some degree, have to deal with wolves in our lives in whatever shape or form they come. And I just saw Little Red as a really strong, powerful figure to work with in my work. And I got a lot from I worked on a lot of things painting this series. So
I remember,
personal.
I have a very, big memory of Little Red. At the beginning of the series, you saying, we're all either running toward or running from something. And, in the whole series, I've watched as Little Red has either been constantly moving away from the viewer. And then there's moments where she turns sideways, sidelong, and she never turns directly toward, or the wolf is always kind of running sidelong. And it, to me, the most compelling part of that series was all around the idea that we are all either, we're walking alongside the things that we're either moving away from or moving toward.
And I think giving a face to Little Red would not serve the purpose of
I agree. Yeah.
the idea that everyone is Little Red. So that's why she remains faceless, and probably will always remain faceless.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Little Red, but that's the way it is.
No, she's a great symbol for that. The nest is the other symbol. That is a symbol we all really understand. And this is probably the series that is the oldest in your production. You started doing the nest as a symbol for, for home and house and love and companionship 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, it's being a reoccurring theme, and I've more recently inserted my Polish heritage eggs with the painted eggs into it. But it really is the thing. I guess I admire the bird's nest as a form of architecture where they can build something in an environment and leave the environment the same way it was when they started. And wouldn't that be great if we all could do that?
Absolutely.
And I just really, I watch them. We live in an area where it's a big migration path for birds. And, I watch them make these nests, and they're just like, they're amazing. They're industrious. They're, I just enjoy painting them, enjoy watching them being made. So it's a big thing for sure.
I can't help but kind of remind everybody of a time maybe 7 or 8 years ago that you built a human-sized bird nest and
Yeah.
shipped it across the country for me to show in the gallery. And it was
Yeah.
literally a human-sized bird nest. And people were overwhelmed by the symbol of this incredibly fragile looking thing that traveled across the world and managed to come into our space perfect. And kids wanted to climb into it, and adults were absolutely amazed. But you actually wove it kind of inspired by the birds.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
These are just a little compilation because I didn't know where to put them in your world. So tell me
Okay,
about it.
well, I'll start with the farm architecture.
Right.
Has always been, something that has struck me, especially living in Prince Edward County. We have a lot of old barns that date back to, the Loyalist times, the first immigrants into this area. And, watching them being restored is not a cheap venture, but a loving venture. And I just enjoy painting barns, all across Alberta and the prairies. You see these monuments to farming. And that's the way I see them, as monuments. And the grain elevators, over the fields, just beautiful structures and simple structures. They're not elaborate. They're no feat of architecture. Well, maybe they are to some degree, but they're just beautiful. And often they are these bright colors that, you just can spot them on the landscape. And so I enjoy painting them. The moon, well, it goes back to my love of German romantic artist, Caspar David Friedrich. He was the man who painted the moon, and I just love his work. And I think, who doesn't love watching the moon? I mean, it gives you such perspective in your life and your own personal experience, how small we are and what's out there and what we don't know about. And I just really enjoyed that.
You also included Neowise, the incredibly amazing comet this year.
Yes.
Which was great. What a current little moment in the series.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love doing that one. That's my daughter's favorite. So
I was going to say, did you actually see it from where you were?
no, I did not see it.
Okay, I
not.
wondered.
I saw photos of it, and I wish I had, but yeah.
It was absolutely stunning. So the balloons have captured people for the last 10 years, and it's all that idea of escaping, all of the, around the concept of each one of us wanting to kind of fly away. So do you want to tell me where it came from?
I don't know if anyone has seen that painting, the movie, The Red Balloon. It was a short film back in the 50s by Albert Lamarice. And it was a black and white film primarily, but the balloon was red. And it just followed this little boy through Paris, how he befriended this red balloon. And, I was shown it in grade school.
Wow.
Probably through the National Film Board, and it was a beautiful film. And I just love the child, that sort of playing with childhood memories by painting these balloons. And in particular, when I paint them, I get such joy from painting a red balloon. I don't know how else to describe it. It's pure pleasure. And especially this one on the right called Freedom. That was such a joyful experience to paint that painting.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was. So I love them, and people, my collectors relate to them.
Well, they relate in ways too that are
Right.
so incredibly sentimental. People, I have people constantly kind of acquiring them specifically around, it was about my father, or my family is for people, and this is a perfect symbol for them. People ascribe so much sentiment to these pieces that I'm constantly amazed.
And the thing is, it's funny, like I don't think it would be as powerful if they weren't red.
I agree with you.
I think pink, blue, purple wouldn't do it. A red balloon, that the power of the color red, it's,
Yeah. Agreed.
important.
So the mountainscapes were really a surprise. Can you give us? I think maybe
Well,
the person who inspired them may be on this call. So
yeah. I don't live in Alberta. I visit there. I have family in Alberta. So before showing it in Canmore, I visited Alberta a lot. I always avoided painting the mountain scene because I don't know, I felt it was something that belonged to artists of that region. But I was requested by a patron of Elevation Gallery to do a commission of the mountain. They were very insistent. And as much as I tried to avoid doing it, I thought, well, no, they're asking me and I'm going to try. And actually, once I got into it, well, the medium the thing about encaustic is sometimes it lends itself to certain subject matter so perfectly. And I found that the surface of the mountainscape would just lent itself so perfectly to the layering, the colors and the carving of the wax. So before I knew it, I fell in love with the medium, with the subject matter, I should say, and it's resulted in a whole slew of different series. So thank you to the
wonderful client. Yeah. Who continues, who just actually had you do another little tiny commission recently.
Yeah. Which is nice.
They are madly in love with it. I'm going to go on to I'm going to flash up some images. We're going to just run through them quickly because I wanted you to see them in space. We put them into these rooms so that people could understand perspective on the pieces and how they look in people's lives. This funny little art room app has become a big tool in gallery world. And it's because people are constantly worrying about how these pieces are going to relate to the places they live. So I'm flashing through these pretty quickly so that people can just see the perspective on these pieces. The little red on this entirely white backdrop thrills me. It was one of those fun ones to do that it was like, oh, that is the place for it. And then just some close-ups of some of the images from this show that really show people a little bit more of the detail. And I'm kind of zooming in on the details so you can see the sculptural qualities, because we're gonna run a brief film about Susan's process, and there's no talk. It's actually a lovely little film shot by Susan's son, who clearly is very creative as well. And he created a very short film of just Susan walking into the studio, a little bit of the process shot, and something for you to kind of understand how these pieces come to be. So as we kind of come to the end of these photos, I'm going to run it. And then as soon as that's done, I'm going to open up and hope everybody will turn on their mics so they can engage in some conversation with Susan around process and what they saw in the film and what they've seen on all these images. And just a quick kind of Q&A so that we can, hopefully it doesn't feel like we've just talked and you've had no opportunity. So I'm going to quickly run this film for you. I hope you enjoy. That is so beautiful. It's just the entirety of that process is just so glorious. So I'm going to open it up. People feel free to turn your mics on. And we have about 15 minutes to just kind of talk to Susan, let her know you're here, ask questions. And I'm not going to moderate it too much. So I'll try to, if people are, all at once, I certainly will, but I'd rather just let you kind of come into the conversation. And, I can assist along if you'd like, but definitely when I see that film, I really understand that process. What I always wonder with encaustic is, how do you choose your color? How do you decide from these kind of blocks how you're going to plan from background to foreground?
Is that your question?
That's my first question.
That's your first question?
That's it. It's a tough one.
Okay. I to be honest, anyone who knows me, I really try not to approach the blank canvas with too many preconceived ideas.
Okay.
So I am a lover of accidents. And sometimes I'll be mixing colors and, have a palette in mind. And by accident, another color will get in there and something will evolve and I'll follow that. So that's how I choose my colors. I mean, I know the properties of the different waxes, some are semi-transparent, some are opaque. And, I always keep that in the back of my mind while I'm working, but I really try to be free. It's one of the only places I feel in my life that I can just let things go and let things happen. So that's my answer.
Do you sketch first?
I often will do small watercolor sketches.
Okay.
They're very loose and it'll try to work out composition and maybe capture a memory. But I often just work from memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Susan. This is Richard from New York. I thoroughly enjoyed looking at your beautiful art. And I have a question and also a request for some advice. My question is, I watched that video and saw you do something that I've never done, although I know other artists do it, and that is applied an iron to a canvas that has wax on it. Is the purpose of doing that in your art to simply flatten the area, or do you leave the iron in places to let the wax melt and blend?
I'm going to say both.
Okay.
Depending on the piece. So if I remember in the video, I was working on the sky in that piece, and I probably was using it to blend.
Okay.
It's not an easy tool to blend with because it's not household iron. Although it covers a lot of area, you lose a bit of control, and you have to really watch the temperature and how long you leave it in certain places. But it's all an experiment. So
Absolutely.
try it. Yeah.
Thank you. And then my comment or my request for advice relates to shipping art. You've done a lot of shipping of your artwork across the country and elsewhere around the world. And I'm new to that, relatively speaking. And I recently shipped a large encaustic painting to someone in Denver who purchased it. And this was a large piece. For me, it was large. It was 3 feet by 4 feet. I packed it using very strict guidelines so that it wouldn't be damaged. But anyway, to make a long story short, the piece arrived. I sent it 6 weeks ago. It arrived. The purchaser left it in the box and then moved their house to a new home and then opened the box, which was today. The painting was all cracked.
Oh.
Wow.
And I think that happened during their move because the movers perhaps you didn't treat it with the kid gloves that it needed. Anyway, my question about advice is I've offered to fly out to Denver to do repairs on this. This woman loves this painting. She's just so distraught that it was damaged the way it was. I've offered to do that or to give her a refund. which breaks my heart as well.
Oh,
But anyway, have you ever gone out to a purchaser's home and repaired a piece that may have gotten a little damaged?
No, I've
No.
never flown across the country to repair a piece of art. I just recently, though, there is a conservationist company in Toronto that I guess was given a piece that was damaged, and like all artwork, if it's not handled properly, and I say all artwork, not that encaustic is any more fragile than any other medium. It was brought back to me damaged, and I repaired it in my studio, and they delivered it to me. I repaired it and I delivered it back.
Okay.
But unfortunately, you're dealing with a shipping company, and
Yes.
the fact that it wasn't looked at the first location,
Right,
it's
right.
a little tricky. So my
Absolutely.
advice to you in the future is always have the first recipient of your work inspect it and sign
Yes.
off on it
Yes, it's
before it goes
very,
in the
very good
file.
advice. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Well,
But all the best with your
thanks,
work.
thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thanks.
Richard, I might comment too that most often happens. I do a lot of shipping of Susan's work and several other encaustic artists' work across continents. It most often happens from extreme cold.
Okay.
Yeah, almost never is it a jar or a droppage. It's always a temperature below, and I've actually been able to refine it. A temperature below -8 Celsius is the kind of stopping point. That's where we can't control what happens, even with all of the different mixes. And I've had circumstances with some encaustic work that's done almost primarily with microcrystalline, but with sometimes other things in it, where I've taken them out of a vehicle to deliver them in -10 or -15 and heard them crack.
Oh,
So I just so you're aware that
okay. Thank you.
Cold is the enemy.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
When I ship encaustic, I always look at the forecast.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where it's
Pascal.
gonna go,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
from Canmore to where it's gonna go, and if it's gonna be too
No.
cold in between, I just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Well, and that the speaker is Pascal Wallet, who's an encaustic artist as well. And it was her painting that I took out of a truck in -15 that cracked.
Oh.
And I was able to fix it. I took it back in the studio, and I
Indeed.
was able to heat under the surface, so the wax kind of got hot again, and I could push it back to the surface. So it was fixable, but it was it wasn't ideal, obviously.
An audible crack, indeed.
Hmm.
Thanks, Pascal. Anybody else have questions?
Hey, Susan, can you hear me?
Yes. Wanda.
Oh, good. Okay, it's Wanda. And I'm an artist here in Canmore, and I actually own a couple of your pieces. My husband was very much in love with your work, and me too. And so we purchased quite a long time ago. I think we have a nest and a kind of landscape painting. But what I really wanted to talk about is the sort of depth in your work. And I find often that people, it's easy somewhat to talk about process and materials and tools. But for me, and this is in my own work too, is like, what's the metabolism that's driving this work? Like, where's this work coming from in this artist who I've never met? Actually, I have met you once, but I look at your whole kind of series, and it's phenomenal, the sort of poetic metaphor that travels through it, this line that is a story in some ways of experiences as a viewer we'll never know, but that come out of you. And I just wanted to say that it really does resonate. Your nests and your landscapes really do resonate with that kind of energy that you obviously put into it. Also, the physicality of your process as a sculptor as well. I really love the fact that you have to I would never paint like that, believe me, but you do. And I appreciate it so much. And I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh, well, that was a great not question. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I just want to say one thing, you know, I'm a visual artist, so what I produce is visual. I can't put into words sometimes what I paint, you know, and I leave that the wordsmiths of the world, the poets, the writers, that's their medium. This is my medium. So
Totally.
thank you. That was really sweet. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hi, Susan. It's Sarah, living in Texas.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I have the privilege of having a couple of your pieces. And as an English major, I would say that the medium has helped me form words as I journey through your works. I mean, they're just, I mean, I've expressed it to you before. They're just amazing. My question though is regarding your frames. You're one of the few artists I feel who has just picked a frame that really adds a dimension to your work, you know, and it's and also takes the mystery, you know. I think people can get afraid to buy art because they don't know how to frame it. So your frame just takes that away. And it's so minimal, but it adds to the work. So I was curious how you came up with the frame and who makes them? Is it you? Is it?
I'm laughing because my husband is sitting in the room right now, and he is the one who makes all my boards and my frames along with my daughter. So
wow.
I have these, you know, I am the most fortunate artist to have, you know, I can put demands on my husband and daughter to make my frames that no other frame maker would ever put up with. So I am so fortunate, and they will say often, and it's a joke in the family, that their frames make my work. And, you know,
Yeah, it's
I
like
kind of laugh about it, and
I,
you know, I say, yeah. But you know what? It is a beautiful, the way they've made them really does showcase my work perfect. And there is those moments where I'll take a painting, I'll take off all the tape and I'll place it into the frame, because they make the frames for me with the boards, and then they come in and put it together. But there's that moment when I put it into the frame where it's the aha.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like it just works perfect. So I'm fortunate, very fortunate artist that I have that in my pocket, you know.
well, they're beautiful. They really are like an exclamation point to your works.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Sarah. I really like that. I'll tell them that. Did you hear that, honey? Exclamation point.
Well, thank you again for sharing your work. It's just,
Thanks, Sarah, for coming.
it meant
Thank you.
so much for me.
Thank you, Sarah. I just have to make a quick plug for Glenn too. Glenn is an amazing fun woodworker and not just a framer. So I just am putting that plug in as well.
Did he do the screen doors when you had the screen doors series?
Yes. Well, those doors, I found them. So they were found doors that he helped me manipulate and take out the old screen and put in my panels to fit into the series. So yes, yeah, those were fun to do. Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question?
Go ahead.
Anyone? Hi.
Oh, I just wanted to say, this is Penny in Montana. Due to the pandemic, this is the first time since like 2001 that I hadn't made it up to Canada in a calendar year. I go up to Canada all the time, and so wave hi to the mountains for me, you guys. Those of you at Canmore, I'm missing you.
Penny, welcome.
Hopefully, you'll see me soon.
I hope so.
You had mentioned the influence of German artists, and I have a master's in Germanics. And in fact, I was an exchange student to Germany years ago, and my host brother lives in Hanau, which is where the Grimm brothers are from. Of course, I love the Red series, and so I was just kind of wondering, is German in your heritage, or is that just you happen to mention the German influence?
I have Eastern European
Okay.
My father was from Poland and my father's mother was from Vienna.
Oh,
So yeah, I think for me, being an art history major, I studied all the masters, and Caspar David Friedrich really stood out for me, and the German Romantic painters as taking the landscape to another level and giving it emotion and feeling, and making man, the human, the man, seeing the landscape as a smaller entity, and that the land is it's not just a backdrop anymore in the painting. It became the subject matter of the painting, and that really struck me. And I think I've just carried that feeling throughout my work. So maybe even it shows up a bit in my little red series, where the human figure is small, the landscape is bigger, but the meaning is still the conflict between the man, the human, and the landscape is an ongoing thing. So does that answer your question, Penny?
yeah, no, I was just curious because you obviously
Yeah.
the Greek brothers, and then you'd also mentioned a different German artist, and so I was just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but love your work.
Thank you. Thanks, Penny. I see mountains in your background in your.
Yeah, and in fact, those are pictures I took up in Bow Lake, and so that's how much I love
Awesome.
Canada.
All right.
And that's our neck of the woods. I'm glad to
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have hundreds of pictures. I can't help but take pictures. I'm more of a photographer than a an artist of painting so I did have one other question. So, and obviously it would depend on the size, but like how long does it take you to create some of your pieces?
It's a good question, and there's
sure
no one answer. A large painting could take a small amount of time because it flows properly. It just
Right.
happens, and you're in the right zone, and everything works. A small 12 by 12 could take forever. So what I often do is, if I'm running into problems with paintings, I put them to the side and I come back to them days later. So it's always a hard thing to say, how long does a painting take, because there's no single answer.
And I kind of figured that, but I was just kind of curious,
Yeah.
especially because of the different medium, the
Well, the medium itself is a labor intensive. I love the fact that, when Cheryl mentioned alchemist, yeah, you do feel that way when you're working with this medium. It's fire, it's wax, it's molten, it's the temperature of the day. Like if it's a hot summer day, it's a lot of humidity. That's going to affect the process of the work. I'm not going to get that nice crisp line that I'll get in the winter when I carve into the wax. So there's lots of different factors that influence it. Yeah. I love painting in the winter more than the summer. I'll just put it out there.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Penny.
We have time for one or two more questions at the most, but does anybody have anything else to ask Susan?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Marianne from Toronto. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi.
So I can see that almost all of your landscapes are Canadian or Canadian-esque. Is there anywhere in the world that you would like to paint? Some other landscape, some other countryside, some other vision, Arctic,
Right.
desert.
Right. Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I think you paint what you know. And I know Canada, obviously, better than other countries. I have a sketchbook filled with some paintings from my trip, little sketches from my trips. And I have thought about, putting them on a larger scale in wax. So that is yet to come. But I can guarantee you, whatever I paint, there's always, water will be a big factor, because wherever I travel, I'd love to be near the water. So, yeah. But that's a good question, Marianne. Thank you.
It is a great question. We were just commenting in the comment section about, that's a great question for every artist, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I have one question.
Of course.
How do you move from like what you choose to paint? So you live beside a lake, and obviously water does influence your work tremendously, but how do you move from that to nests? And then how do you arrive at the red figure, which I find absolutely fascinating? Is it a more of an intuitive process, or is there some indication in your life that, you know, maybe you find a nest in nature around your house, or like, how do you move from subject to subject?
I'm going to use an example.
Okay.
Best illustrate this. So during the first isolation back in March 2020, and I'm in my studio, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, we're all isolated, you know, in uninterrupted time, I should paint something. I was immediately drawn to painting my nests because I probably needed that sort of safety of,
Right.
you know, you're at home, you're with your family, you're nesting. And then I inserted into those nests the painted egg. So obviously I was thinking about my heritage, my parents, whatever at that time. And so, you know, I think that's the sort of, you just have to go with what comes out of you. I don't think about it. I don't say, today I'm going to paint nests. Today I'm going into the studio, and I, you know, unless I have a commission, I do whatever I want.
Right.
Isn't that a wonderful?
Yes, it's a great freedom to have.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, it sounds to me like you just paint your life.
I guess, you know, Wanda, I guess that's what I'm doing. I never thought of it that way, but
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's actually a beautiful kind of summary. It's like you paint your life, and that has always been the way. And that's a reflection that many people can relate to, and it has been for the last 20 years. So I feel really, really honored to present a look back at your life and many other Canadian lives in this current series. So the show is right now all on the wall in the gallery. It looks beautiful in the space right now. And we've had visitors already passing through, but this weekend, I want people to come through. If you're in Canmore or close to Canmore and you can make it to the gallery, come up, have a glass of wine with us. It is COVID, I understand, and we have a capacity of 15 people. The space is large enough that people can move around and have space. And our glasses of wine are covered, so you can take your glass of wine and go off and just look quietly by yourself. So please do join us on Saturday to celebrate this show. And I really appreciate everyone participating in tonight. This was one of the most fun Zoom meetings I've been to, and I've been to a lot lately. The funny part right now is I've got a dog in the background who's whining, so I'm hoping you're not all hearing that. Who's wondering about me and why I'm sitting here talking to the screen. But I really, really enjoyed everybody. Is there anybody else who has a question they wanted to ask Susan and I've cut you off? No, I think that was it. And how perfectly timed, 8:05. My cocktail, my ice is melted. I'm at the end of the cocktail. And this was so much fun, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone who drop in. That's wonderful. Appreciate it.
I've recorded this evening, and so I'm going to put it up online if that doesn't bother anybody. And really, really hope that other people will engage in this, because it was a lot of fun and really, really kind of expositive. I learned a lot more than I knew, and that's a long history to learn more at this point. So really, really nice that everyone joined us, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yay!